Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today let's talk about post-traumatic growth. We know what post-traumatic stress is. Most people know what that is. But there's a next level of it. And the next level is when you use those weaknesses, those triggers, that trauma, you use that as your strength. You use that to make you stronger. You use that to grow from it, to become more enlightened. So the first stage of post-traumatic stress is the reaction that we have towards the trauma. And that can be really a dark place. That's the darkness. That's the shadow. That's that depression. That's where the addiction comes in. The suicidal thoughts come in. Is in that first stage. And we get easily triggered. And when I say triggered, I mean that a fight or flight response in the frontal cortex of your brain, the amygdala, starts firing and you get forced into, because of something that triggers you. It could be a line in a song, it could be an event that happens, it could be a loud boom, it could be a sound of a helicopter, it could be almost anything, a scream, it could be almost anything. And that puts you right back into your trauma. You're reliving it. Vietnam vets, Iraq war veterans, they know about this. You can only live in that dark space for so long. You'll eventually kill yourself, whether it's with a gun in your mouth, or jumping off a building, or hanging yourself, or just a slow death with drugs, self-destruction. Some people want to get killed by others. They go through a self-destructive phase and they live these out-of-control lives hoping that somebody else will kill them because they don't have the guts to kill themselves. And all of it that put together is just a self-destructive mode because you can't exist in that space for too long. You have to be able to take the next step. And the next step with PTSD is to learn how to manage it. And the way that you learn how to manage it is by learning about yourself. You learn about your mind and you learn about why that you are the way that you are. What has caused me to become this way? You have to go back to your childhood. You have to learn about nature versus nurture. You have to be able to flesh out the trauma that you experienced and think about all aspects of it and to be able to understand what triggers you and why. And then you get to a point of where you're managing it. You're dealing with it. You're functioning again. You're no longer existing only in that dark space, but that dark space can easily come back because you're only one step away from it. Managing PTSD can be kind of on a scale. There's some people that are just walking that line. Like the Johnny Cash song, I Walk the Line. But some people are managing it so well, but they can still become triggered and like a light switch get snapped back into that dark space. I was like that for many years. And I could almost feel like Jekyll and Hyde, where a part of me was just this evil, dark, depressed son of a bitch who just felt like everything sucked, life sucked, and I was cursed. And then part of me would be happy-go-lucky. And I felt like, well, Jesus Christ, am I going crazy? That's why the third stage of growth, post-traumatic growth, is the most important aspect of all of this. That's why you have to keep pushing past that management stage so you're not just one step away from that abyss. You're 2 steps away from it. You're only going to take 1 step back. So when you're in the growth stage, you may fall back into the management stage. You may need to review some of the process. You may need to start doing some of the things you did in order to get yourself out of that dark area. This is why I push the mind, body, and soul lifestyle as a daily discipline. So we never give up on that management stage. But that leads to the growth. We become stronger through repetition. And you learn about ways that you can use your traumas. The same stuff that made you feel so dark, that made you feel suicidal, that made you feel like killing other people or killing yourself, that made you run to pills or drugs or whatever, alcohol, those types of things can become your strengths. When something becomes your strength, you become more grateful for it. You're glad that you have that strength because you're using that to benefit you. Small example. I was around a lot of death as a young man in my 20s. In fact, from the time I turned 20, my father died August of 1991, that's when I turned 20. He was murdered in a gang war. That shit fucked me up. And I didn't expect it to fuck me up because I didn't really like my dad. And that was the weird irony of it all. I didn't really like the guy. But when he died, that nature versus nurture inner child came out and realized the real deal, what's going on here is your father just died. I'd always wanted a father. And at 20 years old, that dream was taken from me. I would never have a real father. I had just met him when I was 17. I only had 3 years with the guy. And it really messed me up. And then one after another, when I was 21, I saw a couple more people die right in front of me. Friends of mine. People I hung out with. 22, another couple. 23, another couple. All of my 20s up until about 30. It'll be about 32, actually. It's about 12 years. I averaged 2 a year. I've watched people die right in front of me. Screaming, "Sky, help me, help me." And I can't do nothing. Fucking sirens are going, and I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. But I want to help my friend. What do I do? What do I do? It's a hard place to be in life, to figure out, to be in that scenario. And all of that set me into a really dark place. I felt cursed. I would get triggered by certain things and turn into this really dark, dark person. You may get this fuck the world mode. I would get it times 10. I became self-destructive through addiction, through wild behavior. I'd start rivalries with whole gangs. I'd start rivalries with whole neighborhoods. Not giving a fuck. Want to kill me? Go ahead. You just saved me from a lifetime of torture. Because every fucking day is torture. So I went and sought help. Because I realized that talking to my friends and my homies, some of them didn't understand. Some of my homies were goddamn psychopaths. They had come to terms with murders and that kind of death so easily, they lost all their humanity. They had gone crazy. And I didn't want to be crazy like that, because once you get to a certain point of crazy, there's no coming back. You're gone. You're done. So I sought help. I went to 3 psychiatrists and settled on the last one, this guy Robert Jameson, and he really saved my life. And what he did for me was be able to help me to get to that next level of managing the PTSD that I was suffering. To manage some of those triggers, to recognize the triggers, to recognize scenarios that might trigger me, and to be able to function again so I could live a somewhat normal life, whatever you want to call it, and not have to live in that dark space all the time. But I could still be triggered. And I would still have bad days, sometimes bad weeks, sometimes bad months. And then I would snap out of it. And I would do everything I could to just make sure that I was safe and the people around me were safe from me. And that meant a lot of isolation. But that didn't feel like growth. That just felt like I was pacifying myself. I wanted to grow from this. Post-traumatic growth is taking that next step and turning those weaknesses, those traumas, into your strengths. So through experiencing a lot of death, and learning about myself, I was able to take that experience and to grow from it, and to be able to learn that, learn more about death in a way. I have an unusually deep knowledge of death in general. And what that has taught me is how to experience life in a more grateful manner. I'm grateful to be alive. I never had that before. I never was able to say that before. I was never able to be grateful for being alive. I never liked being alive. It felt like a curse. I was hoping for death. I was just too much of a pussy to kill myself. But I was just looking at my watch like like you're waiting for something. I'm waiting for death. Not anymore. Now I'm grateful to be alive. And I can help other people who are experiencing death. If you've had somebody that has died around you and it's fucking you up and you're in that dark place, I can help you learn how to grow from that. Because I've gotten through all 3 stages. So post-traumatic growth is really where it's at. Not everybody can get past the 2nd stage. Not everybody can get past the 1st stage of just being in that darkness. To make the jump from being in that utter darkness, from wallowing in your abyss, to get to a place of functioning and managing your triggers and managing the stress and being able to live a life again, even if you sometimes have really fucked up trigger days and really bad weeks, all the more power to you. I mean, that's incredible. But you can't stop there. You're just in the middle of the process. You have to get to the final stage of the process. And that's to learn to turn your curse, those traumas, into your gift. And you learn this, you realize this, I should say, when you understand that the bad things that happen to you, they're not making you weaker like they used to, they're making you stronger. I'm an incredibly strong person because of the fucked up shit that has happened to me. I had to go through a hard time in order to be able to be as powerful as I am now, and to be able to help people now, to be able to have a different outlook on life now, to be able to be positive now. That takes serious growth. So don't cut yourself short on one of the stages. Keep pushing forward. You can get over PTSD and move into PTSD, post-traumatic growth. PTD, I guess that would be. I don't know. I don't know what the letters are, but you know what I'm talking about. You can get to the growth phase. It'll not only just save your life, it'll create a future for you. And you can save other people's lives, because that's really what it's all about in this world, is helping others. You're no good at helping others if you're still trying to help yourself all the time. Thanks for watching.